Jeremy's son briefly, he was his medication somehow working bad for him.
Okay, well, it's the 5E then, you don't have a link tonight.
Okay.
So I guess you can start whenever.
Steve's all by himself?
I know, I feel like I got lots of friends around me.
What did you do?
I did shower.
I mean, there is an inference that can be drawn.
Whenever you're ready, Greg.
I'm going to call a meeting to order. Roll call, please, Cassie.
Weednap,
Here.
Carroll. Doyle, absent. Horton,
Here.
Monahan,
Here,
White, absent. Brown,
Here. Quorum declared. Anybody here for public comments not directly related to an agenda item? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 10th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Matt Carroll moves, Larry Wiedenheft seconds. By voice vote, all in favor say aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion carries. Right on to new business. 25 HBC 046. Replacing wood-shaped roofing and with asphalt shingles at 450 North Hickory Street. Is anybody here for that item?
Okay, they know if they can make it or not.
Okay, hearing no presentation on the issue. I did a bit of research on it today. Did anybody else? So it's kind of a black and white issue, sort of like vinyl. It is an architectural feature that should be replaced with cedar shingles, not with asphalt shingles. It's very clear in the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines and standards, as well as our ordinance, that if we were to agree to this, we would have to come up with some meaningful exception. And the only that I found was that the material is no longer available, which in this case is not true, and or that it is, we're in a climate that is not conducive to shake shingles, which is clearly not true because they've been on that roof for many, many decades. So that's what my research indicates. What are some other thoughts around the table?
my opinion was what you're going after, Craig. I was gonna say, I get it, it's expensive, it's hard to find people to do them, but they can go appeal it to city council then, based on a hardship or something.
Right.
But to me, it looked like they'd always been on there. I get they want to change them out, but it does go against what we're trying to do here. So
Yeah,
I concur with your statement.
Thank you. I think they're original, or there's probably been some repairs, but I think for the most part, it's original. Any other thoughts?
I agree with that. The only thing is, my only thinking was, you can't really see I know that's not a reason, but from the road, you can't see the roof and whatnot. But I agree with what you're saying. So,
We use that as criteria for solar panels, but not really anything else.
When was that addition put on?
Jonathan would know better than
I don't know, to be honest with you. It's got asphalt shingles on it, but it's too far outside of our maps to have dates that far back.
you could probably give as good a guess as anybody, Chuck, based on materials.
Wow, it looks like, when you look at the siding and the difference in reveals, that looks almost as old as the house.
It does seem it, doesn't it?
But then it has asphalt shingles on it. So my curiosity is if in fact we want to keep it so historic, why is there asphalt shingles on that?
Well, as you know, we treat additions completely differently than the original structure.
I understand that.
And who knows when those asphalt shingles got put on? And who knows if it was permitted or if there was even a historic commission then? I would bet against all of those things.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we don't have any representation. And this is a beef I have with a lot of things that we do here on the board, is if we, and in this case, I mean, I argue on the same premise that it's practically invisible. But if we, we mandate stuff, but then in the case of a financial hardship, we don't offer any help to make it stay historic. So what you end up with, say this guy can't afford the shakes, then nothing happens. Then what happens to the roof? Such rotting, it goes in. I don't know, maybe I feel a little bitchy tonight, but that's all I gotta say.
Is there any medication or anything we can give you for that?
No, I just think and it happens with windows and siding. I'd really like to see that the town stay historic as possible. But so often, probably more than not, when we deny a request, it becomes too expensive. We don't offer them any help, and nothing happens. So
Well,
you end up with
So picking up on that theme, so it's been a political platform plank of city council people have had that direct plank where they've said we should give, some financial aid to people for the purposes.
So do I need to push it?
I would if I were you, because there are certain council
Absolutely.
people that, okay, but you look at the various ways we could raise that money within the city and then redistribute it. I've always thought when you allow demolition by neglect, like we saw across the river there, you should pay for that. And let's say you're fined for knocking that thing down, it's 10 grand. That 10 grand goes in a pool to go out to that person who under hardship can't afford wood windows. I mean, that's just one idea of how you can do it. Because the problem is, like a Galena Foundation can't give money to a private concern.
So I understand that. And I have ideas for other things. But it just disturbs me in cases. This one's particularly perfect for that description for me, is because I could tell you these shakes are going to be astronomical
Yeah, they are.
comparatively. I'm all for doing it, but
But that's why we have, that's why we're advising. And, if I would tell Jonathan, I'd advise him to go to the city council and say it's a hardship and plead to put the asphalt shingles on, but it goes against what we're trying to do here as the historic.
yeah, and again, oftentimes city council respectfully backs us, and then nothing gets done. And then this roof.
But it would also be interesting to know if there is really a hardship, because some people plead it and they're lying.
Sure, I understand that, and that would be part of having a program to help. You'd have to prove that fact.
If you go 3 houses behind this one, up the, what's that street that's kind of
Bridge.
Bridge. You go up Bridge Street
Yeah.
to the end, that poor guy, he's clearly was retired on fixed income. He clearly could not afford anything but vinyl siding. And he's in the last house in the historic district in that section right there.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to go up there and see it. And we basically had no choice but to deny it.
Right. No, I understand that. But that was just my 2 cents. So
John?
we can make a motion and vote.
Well, Jonathan, you had some.
I mean, it's on the agenda because I thought it warranted some discussion. My opinion is similar to kind of Matt and Chuck's. I mean, you can see, obviously, based on these pictures, if he didn't take these pictures, we don't even know that is shake. from
you'd have-
any ground view.
Sure, you'd have to
From
get up
any
and
ground
walk
view,
around.
You can't see it. When he told me it was shake, I didn't know.
But again, we had that argument with Dick Weenan saying you can't see these vinyl windows. They're covered with storm windows. And we got that on Broadway too, and it's this whole, we can't see it. Well, that's a great argument for solar panels, but I don't know that we've ever applied it elsewhere. I mean,
I would say if you look historically, we probably haven't, because, I mean, that's our mandate.
right. That's what we're supposed to follow the ordinance first.
Correct.
And the guidelines and standards by the Secretary of Interior second. I just don't see how we can approve this unless, if somebody can come up with an exception that's within the guidelines, then, because I don't have any emotional connection to this decision, believe me.
Right.
Is it leaking today? The roof, do you know? Did they say?
Didn't ask if it was leaking. I'm assuming they're having an issue if they're wanting to replace it.
I'm just curious if there's something on that.
If they find out they're going to be turned down, are they going to be upset that they didn't appear?
I don't know. I have not talked to the homeowner. I talked to the contractor.
Okay. Because, I mean, if it makes things better, we could table it for a month. But if you don't
I
think
do
that's
know,
gonna
he did not
help,
specifically say anything about the roof. I do know he said they were having an issue with the Yankee gutters.
Yeah, I would say based on my experience looking at it right now, the roof would probably outlast. The Yankee gutters are always, particularly winter just destroys those. If they're stopped up and not working, ice freeze thaw, that copper is just not, it just doesn't hold up that well. But that should be outside the actual house.
yeah, I have one of those myself.
Well, do we want to table it and see if they come and plead their
It's up to
case
you.
and
If you
we
think it
understand
helps,
something
we'll
different?
do it. If you think it doesn't matter, let's get it over with.
I'd make a motion. I wouldn't table it.
Looking for a motion.
Make a motion to deny.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please, Kezzy.
Horton,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Weidenhuck,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to next item 25, HPC 047, discussion and recommendation to City Council on possible location and sizing for the proposed 9 Galena General statues. I believe Mr. Miller is the proponent of that. I have no idea if you care to speak.
My hearing's bad, sorry.
Could somebody closer to him say what I just said?
Oh,
We need you up here, Carol. Come on up, man.
my ears are so clogged, I don't know. Yeah. I appreciate you guys doing this. I don't know if you know the history of this or not, but, I don't know if you want to hear the history of it or not, but.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, Dave and I have been friends for 50 years since he moved here from California, but, about 10 years ago, he was talking about, he had a big 5 tons of rock from Tennessee and marble. So I asked him if he would do the bust of Washburn because he's a real history buff. So he did that. At that same time, we started talking about the 9 Galena generals. And this was, I think, in July of 2017, I think that was done. And so he said, yeah, but this took like 2 or 3 years to do the carving. And so he decided, he thought the best way to do it would be to mold them. And so he clay models. So we had those. I don't know if anybody had a chance to go down to the market house. They were there for like 3 or 4 months. Anyway, so they're at the foundry. I don't know, 6 months already. Things change. Things have really changed in the course of doing this for the last 3 years. Anyway, so they're at the foundry. And originally we did about 2018, 2019, we kind of talked to David and I and Bobby Booman, because he was the head of the generals, and talked about putting them on the levee. We started calling it the generals on the levee. And not really thinking 3 or 4 years ago how it should be, but we thought originally we'd put them on the levee with Grant being to the left of the walk bridge, and then on both sides you'd have Rollins and Parker on the other side. And it just seemed like it'd be too spread out. So then I thought, the committee is very small. It's David and I, but, so it's a really small committee. But then we decided maybe on the south end of the levee. So when you come through, you start seeing one, and we'd have Grant sort of looking down at Washburn, because Washburn had his hands on everybody, all 9 generals. He had a stamp of approval for them. And Washburn, as you all know, being from, he's such an important figure. Anyway, so then we decided, there were some questions at the city council that they thought it might interfere with the view. And thinking about it, so we went out and looked around and changed a little Charlie here, but from spread out on the whole levee to now this is south end. But now David and I have looked at really like to have on the north end, where there's not a whole lot of stuff on there. And it would be like we go up the sidewalk up there by the
Blacksmith shop.
Yeah, by the blacksmith shop,
Yeah.
right?
and then so the 9 would come down. The 9 would stretch maybe 15 feet between, so it'd be 140 feet, a little bit longer than a gym. And coming down Franklin Street, you see them all right there. I just think they look so nice there. And it's sort of not undeveloped, but it's an area that's not really seen much. And the nice thing is it's sort of in the country because behind it's just a whole row of trees. So I think, I'm not saying nobody's gonna drive here to see the 900 Generals, but people, it's another attraction. Thank you very
Can
much.
you point
Yeah,
to
that's
us where
it.
you mean?
I wonder where mine was. I don't have the it or not.
I have it. That's-
Did you have it? I looked at the office. I'm hearing and going blind also, but I guess you also.
Did you mark anywhere?
No.
Anyway, so yeah, so from the steps there, it would just kind of goes down here, and we walked it off, David and I, a couple of times, and just thinking it'd be a place to go.
From statue 1 to statue 9, how many feet?
I'm sorry,
From statue 1 to statue 9, how many feet?
about 140.
Okay,
So it's 15 feet in between each one of them.
okay.
So, and again, coming down Franklin, it just, I think it'd be a nice view.
How are they secured?
They're gonna be 4 feet underground? Yeah, 4 feet underground, with limestone.
Okay, so we're not gonna be getting tilting statues, they're gonna be there.
Yeah, unless somebody has a backhoe or something, they wanna go up there and
Right.
push them down.
Big footing underneath it.
Right.
Then your limestone on top.
Is there
Okay.
a reason, Terry,
Yeah.
Terry, is there a reason
Article.
we didn't want to put them somewhere like down at the market house where you might get more foot traffic versus just the folks on the levee?
We kind of thought General on the levee was just kind of a nice rhyme. It's really, and I really like it now on the north end because it doesn't take away from anything else. I mean, you're looking across the river and it's just all trees down there covering up US Branch and between the river. But, and I think it'd be too cluttered. The suggestion was maybe down at Veterans Park, I went down there, I don't want to take anything away from the veterans. These guys are veterans.
Sure.
But it would be too cluttered in my thoughts. And other places were suggested, but I don't know that they would be as good as this. This would be sort of a standalone attraction to you. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but they would be there all together. And then I'm not certain that most people in Galena could not make all 9 Generals. And that's okay. It's 160 years ago before ended. But I just think it'd be a nice attraction because no other city comes even close per capita having people with 9 rights to write to general. Yeah. So I mean, it really is a big thing for history. Knowing that, I think it's just. Yeah, go ahead, David.
I was just gonna say, it's a
Yeah.
linear theme, you know, to have the 9 Generals in line and the sidewalk on the levee.
Yeah, they all be
Fits
looking
that
towards
perfectly.
Commerce, Franklin Street, yeah.
So your original idea was to do the Main Street bridge, walk bridge and put them on either side of it.
No, they all be facing town. They'd be all looking towards.
Okay, so they would, if it were the main walk bridge, they would all be to the south end.
Or were they gonna be split left and right of the walk
Originally
bridge?
split.
5 were gonna be on one side and 4 on the other.
Right, that's exactly what
But
I
in front of
meant.
city council, you'd moved them all down to the floodgates.
Right. And now, it's never come before a council, but I did talk to Jeremy about moving them all up to north end, because there's nothing that would interfere with it, I don't think.
Would it be a similar idea in that you have that walkway going up? Would they be balanced to the right and left of
Right,
it?
just to the right.
Just to the right.
All to the right.
Okay,
So for 140 feet, which is less than 50 yards, it wouldn't even make it to the next sitting bench.
It's like this.
Are we sure there's no place ground level that we wouldn't want to put them? To me, I'm not a fan of putting them on the levee,
Sure.
with all due respect. You know, read the Department of Army stuff, yeah, it's
That was your
okay,
idea.
but
Right.
I am not a fan of putting them on the levee. I'd rather see them down on ground floor where everyone could enjoy them. We get a lot of visitors here of all ages. Some people can't get up there.
And that's nice,
Nope.
There's a walkway up there, what do
Yeah,
you
there's
call
a.
it?
There's ADA ramp.
Yeah, of course, they
Yeah.
brought up also at the city council. And I knew there was one down there, so it's easy for people, a wheelchair or somebody that's difficult to walk up.
To get up there.
So it's right there.
It's a pretty big
That,
switchback.
Matt Owenberg said, as far as being at the base of the levee, the Corps of Engineers would not approve that.
well, floodplain.
Yeah,
lots
it's
of
interfering
things.
more with the security of the levee.
So I thought
Soil.
of Muckle Park, which is over across from the train depot where they could be on, but it's in a floodplain, so never mind.
But there's no place in Grant Park to put them,
We looked at that.
That's
too.
problematic in itself.
Right.
is it?
Yeah, That is a
that-
little,
That's not gonna make it through
right,
this
it
commission.
makes Grant Park itself a little
Right.
too crowded.
It's already pretty.
Well, and
crowded.
it's a very historic park, so altering it there's a big problem with that.
Oh, they put benches over there and stuff over there,
Sure.
but
The levy's a new thing anyway.
So what if there was?
You're right,
a-
2004, the levy went in, but it's all, that area has always been used for flood control. It's just gotten much better. So,
Is
I
there a
mean,
potential that you use some of that bilateral symmetry right at this, the steps going up in that you balance to the right and to the left? You'd still have visibility to the north and you would have visibility to the south, as opposed to just on the south side.
Like 2.5.
Yeah, something like that, just to create some, again, a little more symmetry. It would probably, there would be a break, and it would be a pretty interesting approach up the stairs to the levee.
Like Grant in the middle and then 4 on each side.
Something like
Like,
that.
there's a big clearing where the river branch takes a bend. It's a little more to the right, a little more to the south. We like that as a backdrop. Plus a post, there's some giant electrical posts to the north.
so before we get into people's personal tastes,
Exactly,
let's
yeah.
talk about the historic ordinance, because there's an ordinance in this town that guides us, and there's at least 4 of the standards that I think apply here, both for and against. Standard A says every reasonable effort shall be made to provide a compatible use for a property that requires minimal alteration of the building structure or site and environment, or to use a property for its originally intended purpose. Well, the originally intended purpose of that property was flood control. It used to be very basic. It's now a very advanced form of flood control. But that's what that property was for. Does this really affect that? No. Does it complement it? No. It's kind of a neutral standard, in my opinion.
It has a sidewalk though, that was hard to get in and put in for people to walk up and down, so.
Yeah, that was the
Idea too.
2004 Grand Excursion project that was specific to the celebration of the 1854 Grand Excursion. We were allowed to put that asphalt walkway up there, and then it evolved into a very nice walking path for the citizens of Galena.
I'm curious why you brought that point up.
I beg your pardon?
I'm curious why you brought that point up. I can't
sidewalk.
connect it with what I said. I can't connect putting sidewalks
It's
up
got
with
another
what I
purpose
said.
besides just being a levy.
Oh, okay, so the
That's-
sidewalk being in addition to the main
Yeah.
purpose.
and you have
Okay,
people walking up
okay,
and down.
now I understand.
There's stuff
Yep.
for them to look at.
So standard B is the distinguishing original qualities or character of the building structure or site and its environment shall not be destroyed. The removal or alteration of the material, I'll leave that part out. I definitely don't think this destroys it.
I agree.
I think they get a check mark there. When you go down to D, and I think this is the most important one,
Definitely see.
C doesn't apply. Well,
Okay.
I don't think so. They're not trying to create a false sense of historical development.
No.
So I just don't think it applies. So D is changes which may have taken place in the course of time are evidence of the history and development of a building structure or site and its environment. Those changes that have acquired significance in their own right shall be retained. I think the flood control history of that area is relevant, and I do think that is the history of it. Do I think this somehow negates it? No, but it certainly doesn't contribute to it either. Again, these are all these open space things that kind of came up at our last St. Mary's. What do we do with open space? these are the considerations that were given from the city, and obviously I've also brought the ones from the Secretary of the Interior, although those are even more vague. One of the things is J, and it basically says if these statues were ever removed, would you be able to restore the property to how it was before? And there's very little question in my mind that the answer is yes. So as much as I hate to take this position, I find this request as applied to our ordinance to be almost perfectly neutral.
I agree. We don't have anything for it or against it.
I don't either.
Well, I mean, do we have other people that are, because when I read this packet, it sounds like the council had gotten some concerns about why they were gonna put them up there. Do we know what those concerns are?
I think it was the, being very conspicuous down on the south end of the
Down
levee.
here.
Right, and as you change that venue to the north end, it
Becomes
does definitely,
less.
it, absolutely,
Some
that's
view,
correct.
view
Yeah,
shapes and
exactly.
stuff down there where there is
Yeah.
a bigger view down there versus this location.
And it's not disrupting green space nearly as much. The change in location, in my opinion, is very favorable.
Yeah, I applaud that too.
Yeah.
You also have, I mean, the blacksmith shop in itself, having been moved across Water Street into
Right.
its current location, creates an attraction.
Right.
And what happens, in my mind, is that this actually can contribute to that attraction. I mean,
It
you're already
enhances
seeing,
it. I believe
to a
it
degree,
enhances
yeah.
it.
so you already have a lot of people concentrated here.
It's just a short jaunt to go see the general.
Sure.
Well, if you're standing in front of the
Oh,
blacksmith
you see
shop,
'em.
you're gonna see them.
Yeah.
So you're gonna walk up the steps if you're able and
And
go look.
I like the idea if you, and this shot is just like it's out of the windshield of your car, right in that turn. I just think that's an attractive look there versus the prior two.
I mean, I'm not a fan of putting them on a levee. To me, that
But
levee is.
do you have a historic
Yeah,
preservation reason, or is it just Steve doesn't
The
like it?
levee, no, the levee is for the purpose of being the levee, and it's always been clean. And historically, from this town's perspective, that's the way it is. What's gonna stop somebody else from putting some other thing up there?
We
Well,
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 how are we gonna do that if it's something else? You
we
know,
already
we're
have
using.
a couple informational boards, don't we?
that was those lockers or
Isn't there a
something.
couple informational boards up there already?
right, and to that point, Steve, after the 2004 Grand Excursion, where
With
there were $250,000 raised to create that ramp and the walkway.
Yeah.
And the idea was to, prior to that, there weren't benches up there, it was grass.
Yeah,
And then even personally, I did work for the city doing historic signage that went up there that said, you know, here's Grant Park, here was this and that. So we've to some degree already violated the sanctity of the top of the levee by, as Mr. Seegers mentioned, the asphalt, the benches, the interpretive signage. We already did it.
Yeah, but
not quite as much.
right. My fear is at what point do we stop? I don't want some.
Well,
I
anybody,
don't want some funky art thing up there. I mean, I've got nothing against the generals. I actually think they will be nice. What prevents someone else from putting something up there? And we can say us,
Well, I
but I'm
think that
telling you, we're using this criteria,
and I'm
and it
afraid,
could be going against us. Is
and,
what I'm
and I will
telling you.
tell you that if it fits within that criteria, we can't stop it.
that's correct.
But we have that to make an attempt to stop anything gaudy. I mean, I
Well,
appreciate your concern.
You can make an argument over some just random art that somebody makes versus
Well,
the
that's-
9 generals that are
Right.
Well,
a big part of our history, which is what we're here
so
for.
but maybe that's how
some
we
big
send
thing
it.
of art that somebody makes has no historical value.
Right, but maybe that's how, if we are going to say we would propose, you know, we would go do this, we make it under the contingency of something like that because of the historical value it provides.
I think that's a reasonable thing to put in the motion.
I think the motion, yeah, include that in the motion. So you can make that motion.
When you also keep in mind, nobody has any right to do anything on city property unless city council says so. So unlike your own property that you own, where what Chuck said is right, if you meet these
Yeah.
criteria, we have nothing to say about it. the city can say no just because they don't like you.
Right.
So,
Well, that's fair. I just want to try to protect what we got. And
Yeah, I
I get
appreciate
the
that.
benches, I get the other stuff that's almost invisible. And I have no issue with the generals. I actually like the 9 generals. I think that's a really cool idea. I just want to make sure every Tom, Dick, and Harry doesn't put something up there.
So this is actually an alternate location
right.
to what the city council's not even aware of this location, right? Is that,
Is there an alternate?
no, this is the alternate
Yes,
location
From their original
from
thought.
the original approved one.
And sort of your point here, we thought, because they were gonna be like 50 feet apart, going 5 on the north side and 4 on the other. And I thought, I think we may have opened up a can of worms perhaps, but I think the 9 generals are very important to Galena. But what if somebody wants to put, I don't know, a statue of Frank Einsweiler? I wouldn't want them to be in between the
Right,
9 generals. That's why keeping them
Yeah.
15 feet apart is important. And again, the whole concept is the 9 generals with no other city comes even close per capita. So that's the main reason for the 9 generals. Because, and if they had them, if you just walked up there and you walked across the walk bridge and you only saw, I don't know, Rollins, chances are people won't know who that is. They don't know who Grant is, and if Grant all together with them, they would understand 9 generals. That might create some curiosity to read, because I think it's an important fact that we had 9 men from a small little town of Galena that rose to rank of
I
general.
concur.
That's my thoughts. And
I think your idea was kind of nice too, is flank both sides.
That's what I feel. I feel that
Yeah.
a little bit of symmetry would help
Yeah,
as opposed to loading them to one side. So that would be my only caveat.
Whatever motion comes up, it is, I do want it limited to no more than 140 feet south of those steps.
Yeah.
If they want to balance it further north, no issue, but going further south, I would have an issue.
I wouldn't think they'd get obstructed, but I agree with you.
Yeah, so the motion has to contain the caveat that, this is for historic reasons and no more than 140 feet. The last statue can't be further south than 140 feet from the
From the
steps.
center of the stairwell.
And then to your point, flank them, kind of break it up a little bit.
That's what I would
Yeah.
like to see. And I think there's visible space here, no matter where you're coming between the leading edge of the blacksmith shop and the stairway.
Yeah, and that would help us with the 140 feet too,
Yeah,
because I want to keep them within 15 feet of one another.
Right.
Your motion is a recommendation, just as a reminder.
Yes.
Well, right, city
Right,
council's gonna
recommendation
do what
to
they're gonna
council.
do. So,
Well, I'll make the motion.
could I
guess if we-
interject something before you? Our thoughts were, as you're coming down Franklin Street, you're gonna be able to see all 9 of them. If they went to the north of the steps there, maybe 2 will be covered and you won't be able to see them. So it's a perfect photo display for our visitors and for us in Galena to recognize the 9 Galena generals because of the blacksmith shop that's there. And that was the main reason we have. You're coming down, as you can see that photo, you'll be able to see all 9 of them, starting at the bridge there, at the stairs there. And again, sort of a focal point, thinking ahead for people to take photos, and that's what we're hoping, that people do take photos of them and learn about the 9 Galena generals. That was the main reason we looked at that going north of the steps, but again,
we're going to give you permission to go north of the steps. We're not requiring you to. We're giving you all the space you asked for south of the steps. Okay?
oh, okay, so
So
140
we all think you should go north of the steps with some of them, but it isn't our business. They're your statues. You can do what you want. I personally think
I like that.
that you're creating a different viewpoint if you were to put a few of them north of the steps.
I understand.
And I don't really want people taking pictures, particularly from their car on Franklin of your 9 statues. So, but I do get your point, and it is your decision.
Right, I think as this pathway winds up there and gains elevation, the proximity on the north end would be better. I mean, as you're walking this direction, it actually draws you around, and this becomes quite a
a
focal point.
destination from.
Right.
that
Exactly.
point. Exactly.
So I think a little more, if a suggestion would be using more bilateral symmetry. This adds to the visibility. It adds to the aesthetic to bring them north and south. That's just an opinion.
In the event you're in the mood to change your mind for a fourth or fifth time, we're giving you one, you can do it.
One more option.
Especially the last third times is the charm, I think.
Steve, use your wordsmithing.
There you go, buddy.
Come on, Google, man.
Oh, boy.
And they should be kept getting back, we should have 4 back by the end of this month. The other 5 should be coming. This was originally thought we'd get them in by the 4th of this summer in July, but things change, prices go up, everything changes in the course of a couple of years. But hopefully they'll be in the ground before snow hits, but we'll.
Wow.
The other side of it is you could sort of have the inauguration with the bicentennial.
I've thrown it out there, I'm on the committee. But,
Right.
I asked them for 100,000, but they turned their nose.
That's so weird.
I'm kidding. They seem to want to help in that. But, and I think people coming here, they don't know what's going on oftentimes in Galena. They go come, I think they're going to think it's a bicentennial project, which is good. I love
Right.
that, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I was
Well,
gonna
go.
say something too,
Okay.
about size. I think the city council kind of relented on limiting the size at the last meeting. But,
Well,
they
they
sort of referred it to you.
They knocked it down from 88 to 80 inches.
Yeah.
And given where you're now locating them, it's perfectly satisfactory with me. I don't know how everybody
Yeah,
else.
I don't
The
know.
88,
What's
should
that?
be the 88.
Well, I think, didn't city council already
I
make
thought
it
that
80?
was-
They wanted 80, but they're already made for 88, correct?
Yeah, some have, one has a sword, for instance.
Yeah, it's like-
Would be that far in the ground, you know.
And that establishes the height for
So
all of
they're
them, because they're the
established.
same height.
Yeah.
I have no
well,
issue with
it's
88.
the same
I
height
don't-
as
Especially on,
everything.
not down there.
Not down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So make it pretty
Mark
much-
Moran,
I'll-
will take that
I'll throw it in.
size,
But-
but it doesn't look big on the south.
Yeah, well,
In Grand Park.
the height mattered a lot at the front end of our town. I don't think it
Yes.
matters nearly as much where where you're putting them.
And I guess we're talking about height. We originally thought Grant would be in the middle. He would be about 6 or 8 inches taller because 4 generals on one side are kind of looking at this, the 4 generals on the other side are looking at this, not like this, but just sort of a slight look.
Perfect for bilateral symmetry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
eyes right, eyes left.
Right, that's
Right.
exactly how you look at it.
Exactly. So
Okay.
that would be.
They're never gonna let you do
6
it.
or 8
I know
inches,
it.
whatever.
We're gonna all die of old age.
Who got the sword, by the way? I don't see that in any of the bus.
The what?
Well, Mr.
Who
Seeger
has
has
the
mentioned the
sword?
sword.
Oh, it wasn't on there.
I have a picture of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it wouldn't fit at that height.
I do know that.
I mean, what I did like about that, although this isn't in our purview, I don't guess. at
Would
this
you
time.
guys like me to make the motion? while
Yeah,
you
that
look
would
at
be
your
great.
pictures? Okay, very good. I'm
It's not
gonna,
hanging,
so
it's not in.
I'd like to make a motion
bus, but
to
it's-
take the recommendation to city council to say we would approve the placement of the 9 generals based on the historical value to Galena on the north end of the levee, not to exceed the 140 feet to the right of the
140 feet south.
south. In addition, we'd also recommend the utilization of bilateral symmetry for that staircase there. Fair? And the height can be, and we would feel, being at the north end down there, the height of 88 inches is more than satisfactory.
The only thing with the bilateral symmetry is we prefer, it, but it's a suggestion.
It's a suggestion
Right.
only, yep.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure I'll second that. I want to make sure it covered all the.
Good,
things
because don't
that
ask me to
we
repeat
discussed.
it.
I'm pretty sure.
You know, Matt, you've talked our ears off. What are you thinking?
No, I'm in agreement.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Cassie, call the roll, please.
Horton,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Weedmack,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. Motion carries. Congratulations. And thank you, by the way. I understand this
Good
is
job,
a
guys.
private endeavor. That was very nice of you.
You had to come down when they dedicated, I don't know. You guys can dedicate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Nice
if you
job.
wanna look at the site, you know, we're open to suggestions. symmetry and all this stuff.
That'd be good.
Yeah, please. Yeah,
And the size is Henry Taylor and Grant Park, Medal of Honor.
right.
That's
Okay.
the size.
Okay.
Okay.
And Mark Moran,
Sign this.
okay,
Who is now no longer our city administrator.
yeah.
Yeah,
Which means it doesn't matter.
I'm about to. Okay, just gotta wait for people to stop talking. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I'm gonna say that Chuck went first, Steve seconded. By voice vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. And folks, thank you for coming. I wasn't sure where I worked.